Good evening. Welcome to the Red Hook Town Board meeting of Tuesday, July 9th. Would you be kind enough to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. For the folks at home on the screen tonight, we have a brief agenda. We'll be discussing essentially grants tonight. This is one of the main grant seasons that we have. As you know, we try whenever possible to get as many grants as we can for the projects that we are working on. And the state has consolidated a lot of their grants for the end of July. And in fact, they now call it the Consolidated Funding Application. And so we'll be discussing many of them as part of 1 and 2 agenda items. And reorganization is simply removing some committees that have not been constituted because we want to re-envision them and reconstitute them at a later date, and also an appointment for an alternate for the planning board. So that's what we have tonight. We anticipate we'll go into attorney-client to discuss a couple matters and potentially also executive session for some matters under negotiation. With that being said, it is the first meeting of the month, and so we take a look at the financial snapshot of the municipality, and this is for the period ending June 30th. We started with an opening balance of $8,674,000. We had receipts of $2,408,000, disbursements $2,764,000. This is also including any monies that were moved, balance of $8,318,000 for the month. We have budget adjustments prepared by our bookkeeper and Conway. And as always, you have in your packet the variance reports. I should say that we did have Paul with extended tours. Periodically, they review the finances of the municipality to assess whether or not we have the appropriate credit rating. So we expect to hear some more from them perhaps later this month. Okay, very good. Any questions about any of the budget adjustments or about the supervisor's report? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept. Who would like to make that motion? If so moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jacob. All in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Thank you. We also have the town clerk's report. Deanna, would you be kind enough to summarize your report for us?
The town clerk's report for the period of June 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2024, total local shares remitted to the supervisor, $7,685.95. Amount paid to New York State Agriculture and Markets for the spay-neuter program, $29. Amount paid to New York State Department of Health for marriage licenses, $90. Amount paid to New York State Environmental Conservation for hunting and fishing licenses, $307.05. Total state, county, and local revenues, $8,112.
Thank you very much, Deanna.
And there's an abstract.
Yep.
I hereby certify that vouchers number 32102 to 32284 totaling $298,819.82 processed in the month of June 2024 are an accurate reporting of the abstracts approved for payment by the town board.
Thank you very much, Deanna. Is there a motion to accept the town clerk's report?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jacob. All in favor, Christine?
Aye.
William? Myself, aye. Very good. good. Announcements. I don't have too many announcements, but let's do that. Think Differently, Dutchess, New York, had a showing Frozen Friday, July 19th. Closed caption. It's for folks who are sensory sensitive, and it's a sing-along event, 6 p.m., and that's at the Bardavon. Seating is limited, and if you would like to attend, RSVP please by the 15th. We want to let you know, we did send out a news alert and remind you, if you're watching this, to please sign up for notifications. But thanks to the Salthill Watershed Community Group, there is now a second round of private water well testing that's undergoing. The bottles are here in the front hallway across from the town clerk's office with instructions. You pick up the plastic bottle and you put the water in no more than an hour before you drop it off on the 13th. So that would be this Saturday. And you will get results within a couple of weeks. They will test for E. coli, pH, heavy metals, and nitrates, and sodium, and all that is listed here with simple instructions. So it's free of charge. And I want to again remind folks that the results are private, so just for your use, and the data will be compiled. There will be no data that will be shared with anyone on an individual basis. So it's really a great service, and I encourage you to take advantage of that. So you need to come between now and the 13th and drop off in the morning of the 13th. Also, Bill, do you want to let folks know there was a notice sent out for water district users, benefit users?
We discussed this at the last meeting, and this notice went out with the bill the next day, believe it or not.
Okay.
And essentially, the EPA, the federal government, has mandated that all service connections, that's the line that goes into your home, make sure that's not lead. And this is attached to your bill, and it gives instructions on what we would like to do. It's really essentially a census of our people in our water district. There are still people who don't have a smartphone. They may have a flip phone or not even a phone. So if you can't take a photograph and email it in yourself, we would ask that maybe you ask a neighbor or a friend or a relative to come and do this. It's important because we have a requirement to report back to the state, who will report back to the federal government to ensure that we have no connections that are lead. What's in your home is not an issue. It's where the water comes in from the public into your house. The instructions here are to try to see if, make sure, most of them are copper. That's what we're experiencing. Some plastic, PVC. But the main issue is to see if there's any lead. We don't think there are, but we have to make a very good effort to. And there's about 498 connections. So, and I think about 186 of those connections, I believe that's the number, would have been connections made after 1986, and they're not subject to it. So whatever the 498 minus 186 is really the
312.
312. Those are the ones we're worried about. And we're not worried, we want to make sure we get a solid answer.
Very good.
And you can always call the water department if you have a question.
Very good.
Hey, just a quick clarification on the water testing.
Sure.
So it's not it's not town-wide, right? So, or it's just within the Salthill watershed. And on this announcement, there is a CMAP. So this is on the website where that link would probably work to get the map, right?
It's on the website. It is also here next to the bottles. Much of the town, thank you for clarifying, much of the town is within the Salco watershed, but not all of it. They have expanded some of the testing to now include the Clay Kiln area as well, and the Stony Kiln, all of that watershed. So, thank you, that's helpful to clarify. But most everyone is within the Salco watershed, but that is
And
an
if you want
important
to check
detail.
before you get here, this link would be live on our website.
Exactly. And importantly, it's for private wells, not if you're hooked up to the water district or to village water. Okay. Very good. We are a couple minutes late, but could we entertain our continuation of public hearings? And just before we get started, to know that we'll be extending those into a date in the future because we have not received the additional information that is necessary to render a decision on the moratorium waivers in these instances. Deanna, could I impose upon you to read or summarize the notice of continued public hearing?
Notice of continued public hearing, Town of Red Hook. Please take notice that a series of concurrent public hearings, which were previously scheduled for May 13th, 2024, are continued and will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook on July 9th, 2024 at 7:35 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter comes before the board at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York. To hear all interested persons on the applications received on the date set forth below from the applicants interested persons on the applications received on the date set forth below from the applicant's local law placing a moratorium on applications in the TND CC subdistrict, on applications for subdivision in the AB district, and on applications affecting wetlands adopted March 27, 2024. The requests for waiver concern the following: Red Hook Land Corp. LLC by Bob Ross, 5 Old Farm Road, 1.955 acres. Dean Kent, 41124. 171 Feller Newmark Road, 3.04 acres. Please take further notice that copies of said proposed waivers applications are available for review at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York. All interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard in person or by directing comments in writing to the Town Board at 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook. All reasonable accommodations will be made for persons with disabilities. In such a case, please notify the town clerk in advance so that arrangements can be made. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook, dated May 13th, 2024, Deanna Cochran, Town Clerk, Town of Red Hook.
Thank you, Deanna. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to open the concurrent public hearings. Is there a second?
Second.
Jacob. By nod. All in favor? Christine, Julia,
Aye.
Gloria. Okay, since we haven't received the materials, or our building department, zoning department has not received the materials, I'd recommend we extend these public hearings for another month or so. At that time, you might want to make a decision as to whether or not just to deny the applications because they weren't complete, or to review them with more information, and then maybe we can make a determination. What is the date for our first August meeting, please?
The 13th.
15th?
13th.
Yeah, okay. August 13th. Does that make sense, folks? We'll give them another month, see if they can get their information together.
For the record, can we just state that there's no one here to speak today on these applications?
Thank you, yes. In attendance, there's no public for the public hearing. Okay. Thank you, Tennessee. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the public hearings until August 13th at 7:35. Is there a second?
Second.
Christine. All in favor, William?
Aye.
Julia?
Aye.
Jacob? Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along. would you indulge me if we conducted the agenda backwards tonight and just started off with reorg? Since we're going to discuss grants and grants only, I think, afterwards. So, well, it's only one for an individual, but we want to tackle some other things. So, on the planning board, so we have correspondence from the chair, Stan Phelan. We are very pleased to report that Brent Kowalczyk, a longtime village trustee and a longtime member of the municipal task force, has offered to step up as an alternate for 2024 until such time as he retires in 2025. And I think that might help the planning board because they've had a quorum issue on a couple of occasions. And so, your thoughts on that, on the recommendation? How do we feel?
Sorry, moved.
It's excellent.
We feel one great and excellent, one so moved. Jacob?
Second.
All right. Second. All right. So there's a motion on the floor then, it sounds like, to appoint Brent Kowalczyk to the alternate to the planning board. Alternates, as some folks remember, I believe are 2-year terms. And this would be for a period ending 2025. That would make Brent the second alternate. I'm thrilled that he's interested in joining as a full member. It'd be a terrific addition to the planning board. Did we kind of vote? We kind of did, but let's do it again. Julia?
Aye.
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 William? Aye. Myself? Aye. I think I moved. You seconded, right?
I second.
I moved,
You
he
seconded.
seconded.
Something like that. All in favor? Okay. Very good, thank you. The other parts of the reorg that I wanted to accomplish tonight, if we could, we still have St. Margaret's Committee listed, and I think that there's been some discussion about maybe having historic and cultural properties or something like that, a different vision for a committee, so it wouldn't just be for the one building and programming and so on and so forth. So I'd like to make a suggestion, just so we don't continue to confuse people, that we actually remove the name St. Margaret's Committee, the number of members and appointments, and so that our reorg list does not reflect that. We'll come back maybe in the near future. We'll have a grand opening, if you will, of St. Margaret's. And then while we're doing the finishing touches on all that, let's think about how we want that committee to be constituted, what types of expertise we'd like to have on it, programmatic, in historic background, so on and so forth, and what we might want to have for a mission from them, and how many people also. Because we have quite a few folks in town who have tremendous expertise in historic properties, and I think we should tap into them as much as possible. So that means some outreach as well. So my motion would be that we remove the St. Margaret's Committee name from the reorg list, as well as the membership and the appointments. And we'll come back and reconstitute a new committee that is not just St. Margaret's. Thank you, Jacob, for the second. All in favor, Julia?
Aye.
William?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I guess for that, for the website, if we should remove I think there's already a note there saying the St. Margaret's Own Committee is currently not active. Properties maintained by park staff and a volunteer. There's a list of people there. I think we should remove the list of names there as well. as
Please,
from
yeah. Some of those lists are
Old.
old, so I think we should maybe scour them if we have some time this summer, if there's a down couple of hours and scour and just make sure our website is current with all the information. Also, Senior Services Committee, that hasn't been active. It was active in the beginning of the pandemic and has not been. I'm sure you all heard that we lost in a tragic accident our former chair of that committee, Andrew Kerr. Our condolences are extended to the family. It was a difficult couple of weeks. We lost other volunteers, including our town clerk's father, Thomas, who was a dedicated volunteer for the rec committee, and so our condolences to you, Deanna, and to your
Thanks.
family and friends.
Thank you.
We also lost our dear former deputy supervisor, Bill O'Neill, rather unexpectedly last week. Much of what has been accomplished over the last 20 years, Bill has had a role in and was very instrumental as being the chair of the working group since 2004. And we, of course, send our condolences to Jean and the rest of Bill's family. We will be sorely missed. Okay, Senior Services Committee. So, what do we want to do there? I think we would benefit from reconstituting that committee. I'm thinking moving in a different direction, trying to get folks to populate that committee, because I think we really need it to keep up to date on what's happening with services around here, and probably behoove us to have somebody from the community center, since they're doing stuff there, maybe from somebody from Record Commons, because there are needs there that aren't being met.
Maybe somebody from Red Oak Responds.
Red Oak Responds.
Question.
Yeah.
So we just signed a voucher for an event, I think it was.
Oh, the senior committee.
Senior committee.
Yes, the senior group.
The group.
Exactly.
Who coordinated those activities? Because they happen periodically.
They do, so that group, yeah, so there's, it's a membership group, and they rotate from year to year who heads up that group, and we provide a budget for them to do
But they have no.
cultural recreation.
Shouldn't, right,
But they're
museum
not,
trips and stuff.
they're not a separate committee. But we
Okay.
should probably, if that's good of you to bring that up, we should probably have somebody from that group as part of it.
Well, and at the same time, every time we see those vouchers, I think about, and I think we talked about this at budget season, I think the activities are great, and I would love to see them advertised a bit more broadly.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe that we could accomplish both things at the same time.
Well, if we, yeah, exactly. If we get a member to join the committee, and then that becomes part of the minutes and part of the announcements. Yeah, I think we should do notification. But if we're careful, the budget may be a lot bigger now, so that,
Hey.
yeah.
We do a lot for you, we might as well do some for
Oh,
ourselves.
no. I couldn't agree with you more, Julie. We've got to make sure our seniors are content. Well, I will say pickleball did help.
It's huge.
Yeah, did help, but yes, there's so much more that we can do for them that we want to do for them. So let's see if we can repopulate that committee. Okay, that's all I have on reorg. Does anybody else have on reorg? Communications committee, what do we want to do about that? Because that has not been meeting.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. I think that it would be good to have an active committee, but I don't know that the way that it was constituted was a good fit for the sort of ongoing goals of communication. So I think it would be good to keep it as it is for now and revisit it. Think about sort of the mission and the membership to be sort of reconstituted according to that.
Okay, keep the committee, but repopulate it?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, if we wanted,
Mission,
yeah, if
change in mission.
we wanted to pull it off, we could. It's not meeting right now. I think that the last big pull was to get the website updated.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of been a lot of what the previous focus had been, was around that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that maybe a different emphasis for the committee could be about outreach to the community, thinking about more of the communication coming from the town government and committees. to get more of that word out there, kind of like we talked about with senior citizens. If that was a committee that was sort of spearheading some of that communication, I think that would be a good approach. Obviously, we have the Notify Me on the website. People can sign up for that, but I don't think that, you know, we're not going to have the critical mass of people signed up for that anytime soon to get, you know, full coverage. The way we'd like, I'd encourage everybody to sign up for that if you're hearing this. But I think that if we had a committee that was really working affirmatively to get the word out for things, that would be a good asset.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would keep it as a name. But,
Okay.
but if we wanted to make it dormant and then re-add it, I don't think there's a problem with that. I guess it's just a matter of what the board thinks in terms of the current status.
I mean, it sounds to me like a senior services committee in the same category, right? Like St. Margaret's needs to be fully reworked with a new mandate.
Yeah.
Senior services and communications, we both think they're still useful committees. They just need to be, you know, repopulated and tweaked a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll keep it and we'll repopulate it. Sounds like, and rethink. Maybe we should do a little debrief
Yeah.
with some of the members and see what their thoughts are as well, where they think they should pick up, new membership pick up. Great. Okay.
On the committee that Bill O'Neill chaired?
I think it's drafted.
So the task force, I think it's been struck into.
That's what I thought, but I was on the website not long ago. and I
Oh,
thought I
website.
still saw it.
Yeah.
Still showing up. Again, that's, you know, the website.
Yeah. Well, I wonder.
Let's work, we'll work together on that town clerk.
A question I have, and I was thinking about St. Margaret's was,
We'll go over
was
that.
we have the minutes and, you know, some information about St. Margaret's, and I think that's all really good in terms
Just
of
keep
the
it
statement
short.
saying this committee is not currently active.
Yeah.
I think keeping the page is fine as long as we maintain the
Yeah.
records of all of that and keep that accessible, easy to find.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as it's not misleading. You know, if it shows up like in that initial drop-down menu and then it's not a current committee, that's kind of confusing. So I don't know, maybe we
Yeah.
could mess them under
Yeah.
dormant committees or former committees or something like
Yeah,
that, you know?
and there's a lot of good work that happens in these committees, even if they're not
Yeah.
meeting now, it'd be good to go back and access those
Archive,
resources
yeah.
through those pages.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a sentence about the St. Margaret's committee will be, is being re-envisioned or something, you know.
Yeah.
under-
Well, I think what's already there is
a
fine.
broader-
It already talks about the committee not being active and that it's
So you
being
just want
handled by
the
the
names
record. And I
on
think
it.
just removing the names is fine. The rest of the information on the site is good. It talks about the history of the building. It has the you know, previous minutes and things like that.
Okay.
I think that's a good approach. Just say that, you know, this isn't current. And then whenever we do reconstitute, I think we can link over and copy that information over as is appropriate.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. And we will take a look at the website, see what needs to be changed and updated. All right, let's jump in, shall we? Let's start with the potential to apply, we have a resolution here somewhere, to the estuary for natural resources inventory, and just, you know, for clarification, I think,
Back to number
You
one.
passed the resolution.
It's early.
or was it, did I miss the red? There we are. So the grant, obviously the grant needs to be finalized. Julia and Jacob both attended the CAC meetings. And Bill Allen, in his role as a volunteer, has been shepherding this along, but, you know, just to make sure he's clear that volunteers cannot be, you know, compensated for these services. That's just not something that's allowable. That's a conflict.
And that's something you're going to communicate to him?
Yeah. Well, I think we have already, just want to make clear, understands that we also need to go through our procurement. While it's been helpful for him to do outreach, I think with a couple of entities, right? That's only one other consultant taking a look at costs and stuff. It probably should be referenced in applications because we haven't gone through the proper procurement procedure. So let's.
Well, I think the idea was that was getting a sense of how much it might cost, and
Yeah.
then planning to do an RFP once the grant was acquired.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just, yeah, make sure that, you know, when,
And I think that's in the description here too. I think that was in like the timeline. I think it lists that as like the first bullet point, or under January 2025. Well, there's actually under 2024, where the town of Crane published an RFP to hire a consultant. So that's in there already. I think it was just noted that it pulled from, you know, sort of to get a sense of what it might
Estimates
cost. That's where the reference to Hudsonia comes from.
right.
And also just acknowledging that there is, you know, local capacity to do something like this. We'd still go through an RFP, but
Right.
we know that there are entities doing NRIs locally.
Yeah,
There is some overlap with the wetlands because the state itself, it has to conduct its own natural resource inventory for certain reasons related to the impending change in the law. So the only thing I would recommend is that we make sure that we don't duplicate or do work that is somehow going to be in conflict with DEC's own. I don't know whether they're doing it or whether they're hiring their contractors to do it, but due to the way that the regulations have been drafted, they have to do it. And so there are many other natural resources, obviously, that this encompasses, but that does actually take up a fair number. And so I just wouldn't want to,
duplicate. I'm trying to remember when the estuary awards, is it October? Do we remember? Did you all discuss that in the meeting?
It's variable, I think.
The roles.
Depending on when the budget comes through and things like that.
Okay. Well, yeah, and then you have the contract, as we know, right, sure.
It would be sometime in 2025, that would be.
Yeah, it could be as late as 2025, so we might not have your wetlands conflict.
Yeah, there won't be a problem.
Right. Okay.
And while we have a pause in the conversation, I just want to say, Robert, you and I spoke about this already, and that's, I'm talking mostly to Deanna, I think, and Cassie, I am going to recuse from the vote on this due to potential conflict of interest with my employer.
Understood.
Okay. Well, we always recommend leaving the room with refusals. Even discussion. Okay. To note, councilperson Julie Solomon left the room. So the estimate for the total project cost, $73,698, with the town having a match of essentially around $10,000. To get to that, the grant would be $63,820. This is all an estimate, obviously based on some discussions they had with consultants in the past for what these projects typically go for. But obviously, as previously mentioned, the RFP process will determine what the actual cost is. I just want to make sure that if we go ahead with this project, that it's dynamic. Were there discussions, Jacob, about future proofing, I like to call it, where you can have digital mapping that can be updated easily and readily, and we don't end up with that dust collector document that we can't use?
Yeah, I don't know exactly the format, but I think that's the idea, is right to have different overlays, being able to you make it useful. I think that's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that might be a part of the RFP, right, is putting it into, you know, sort of the requirements for whoever's going to bid on it, the format be sort of future-proof in that way. But I think that's a good point, because we don't want it to just be something that sits in a binder in the conference room.
Yeah. Well, not that we don't refer to them, but they
Yeah.
need to.
But it'd be easy, like, we want something to be something the planning board could pull up and, you know, do overlays and.
Yeah.
If I could just suggest, when you are in for this, if you could consider consulting with county.
Right. I was just about to bring that up.
Their
Yeah.
specific GIS
Right.
methodology and layering, and what are the requirements for their program to be able to connect there.
Right, because they've done one, right? NRI, the county's house.
Yeah, and I
so-
think the idea is that this
Just
would
in terms of
be,
the.
Right, for the mapping.
right, the mapping, there's so many different kinds of,
Well, we lost Chris, but I think she was about to say so many different kinds of software.
Yeah, and I think that the county's platform was discussed in the meetings about this, right?
Okay.
To have it be something that, I think the idea is the county's platform, you can submit your own information, and this would be something that could be
Okay.
added to that as a part of, as a part of that, yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. This would be resolution number 63. Are we ready to entertain this to apply for a natural resource inventory? And who would like to move it?
I would like to move it.
I had a feeling you might take up.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Christine. All in favor, William, myself. Hudson River Estuary Program Grant for Natural Resources Inventory in the amount of $63,820 for the grant. Total project cost estimated to be $73,690.
And thanks again to Bill Allen for all the work that he's put into this. He's spent a lot of time on that. It's very much appreciated.
Very much appreciate this effort and efforts of the CAC. Okay, and continue to scroll down here. All right. So let's start talking about some of these other grant
Should
possibilities.
bring Julia back in.
Oh, sure, why not?
Julia, can you hear us?
She's really recused.
She left.
Hi, Julie.
Oh, you're back.
Well, I'm so eager to keep moving along, Julia, I completely forgot about you. Thankfully, Jacob reminded me. Okay, we're now on the discussion of other grants. So, since our last meeting, we discussed a bunch of possibilities. We had a meeting with Brandy, went over a few things. We investigated more of some of the program requirements. So why don't we start with the WIFIA? How do you say it though? WIFIA. WIFIA is the acronym. So this is that EPA grant for water and wastewater systems. And you know, it's not a grant, so it's a loan.
They sell it as a grant though.
They sell it as a grant, don't they?
They do.
It's not a grant, it's a loan. It doesn't necessarily mean that it wouldn't be something to consider, but, you know, trying to understand the advantages over, say, EFC, which, you know, I think EFC would certainly be at a rate. So this is at Treasury rates plus 100 basis points. I think AFC's rate would be better, right, Nancy? I think that would typically
Yeah, I would think so.
be a better rate. No, I don't know necessarily that we're qualified for 0% interest financing. I don't think we meet those income guidelines, but,
that's right, but EOC rates would be based on the tax exempt, AA, AAA, where their current rating is.
Right.
And EOC is able to get by combining their credit. So,
Right.
if you compare that to what's essentially a taxable rate. We don't know much about this. I think it would be useful to talk to EOC about it. But
right. So, yeah, that would be my suggestion. We talk to EFC, maybe consider doing the letter of interest just to get that conversation started with WIFIA. But I guess where we stand now is we're not quite sure that this program will
Be advantageous.
be advantageous over EFC, but one has to try to figure out why did they create this program if there are better options out there for just about all municipalities.
But they created it for the United States, not just for New
Right,
York.
no,
so-
I understand that, I understand that, but I imagine there's an allocation going to New York.
Yes.
Right.
And this is not on the CFA deadline, is that right? This is-
It's
because
not, it's
federal.
rolling,
Yeah.
it's federal, so it's rolling, and we're not quite sure like when the funding will be
Yeah.
available. You know, it's slightly different with the short term, and for the first 5 years, it's unclear when would be, you know, if things are amortized, or payments would be
And I think it's
due.
worth learning more.
Yeah.
No payments for 5 years. It's kind of like a student loan,
Yeah,
you know, while you're in school.
Right, and that
So-
could be helpful for a business district that we're trying to build out.
And it buys you time to increase
Right,
your user base, or at least start development, even not just of user base, of commercial users, but of, you know, some residential projects. It buys you time to do that.
Right, but understand that federal rule is, as you said, Bill, for the entire country, and the New York State local finance rules require commencement of amortization at the end of 2 years.
2 years.
commencement of amortization,
Right.
but not necessarily payment.
No, it means you begin principal payments.
Right.
Well, that's
The-
EFC.
The two of them are not mutually exclusive,
No, that was
so
sort
let's
of
just
my,
investigate.
Yeah.
yeah, that was sort of my idea, is that, you know, these things, like in Tivoli, end up costing a lot more than they anticipated, and it could be
A backstop.
a backstop,
Right.
Okay.
emergency funding.
Yeah, is there, Chris, is that your sense that it would be helpful to have this in our back pocket, if you
I mean,
will?
I think it's worth having, I think it would be good to have a conversation with the OC, and I think that, you know, it appears that the application is pretty extensive. It says letter, but it's actually, it's
Right.
pretty akin to the preliminary EOC application, and so if we are preparing to do that anyway, perhaps they could be done in concert. A
Okay.
lot of the same information is required,
Okay,
such as a detailed budget.
okay.
So-
Well, I think our application is technically in with the FC, right?
No, I think, well, I don't know, I believe did you submit an IUP as opposed to a preliminary application? I would think.
We did an IUP, yeah.
Right, and so the preliminary application is gonna be more, you know, finance information and more detailed project cost information and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I thought we had also submitted the application at the same time.
Maybe you did,
Yeah.
you did,
Mhm.
I haven't seen it, but.
And so we would need, you know, 6 months or so, I think, is when Brandy gave us an indication we would know.
Yeah, the only question I had with YFIA, which wasn't clear from this, a student loan's pretty clear that no interest accrues while you're in school, and it only begins to accrue when you've completed college. This just says there's a no payment period for 5 years, but is interest accruing during that time, so you get like a balloon payment.
Right.
And
Yes.
it's not clear
That's what it
on
seems to say.
this info sheet.
Typically for
I mean,
federal,
you know, in initial review, that's what it seems to say.
Yeah.
Um,
Cassie's chiming in here.
yeah, when I used to do I used to do a lot of federal work, and it always usually accrued.
It accrued, you didn't have to pay it.
I mean, it's clear in the loan agreement, but typically federal loans do accrue, unless
So-
explicitly stated otherwise.
So is that why they mentioned 35-year term, is because they're taking the first 5 years and they're not, I see. So you're really paying over 30 years like you might otherwise, but a 35-year amortization with the first 5 layaway.
Deferred.
It's like,
Layaway. Okay.
Okay. Well,
So I think we have
Yeah.
a plan, right? Okay, so I'll try to get as much information. Bill and I will, for the next meeting. Okay. So, let's see, WQuick. So, under the sub-programs for salt storage and road salt reduction, the program funds 25% of the eligible cost.
Pretty low.
It's, I'm glad you said it, because I didn't want to complain. I never want to complain about grant funding, but 25%, hey. So thinking in terms of, all right, let's step back for a moment. We have a quota of about 107,000 for the brine equipment, right? And then we heard, well, maybe you need to upgrade your water service line into the highway garage, because I think what you've got is not sufficient for those activities, perhaps. I think Brandy was gonna try and get us some kind of a quote. So let's say, I don't know, another few grand. Let's say the whole thing's 120,000, you apply for 25%, you're looking at a $30,000 grant, so
It's 90,000.
it leaves 90 as a net for that project. So there's, I guess, two questions I have. Is that enough of grant funding to go out and get it and administer it and wait? Because I guess we're talking about waiting.
What is your timeline on salt storage?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, salt storage is a whole nother thing, but we're talking about road salt reduction right
I
now.
know, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris, I think your head is going the same place that my head was going, is, because this grant appears to also fund upgrades to salt storage, are there ways that we could scope the project to include work that we need to get done anyway, and do both?
And then we can prioritize, the sort of conversion, like implementation of the grinding, and think about the salt shed,
Right.
so that we get the grant.
I mean, I was just about to get on my calculator, it may not actually end up being beneficial to us, depending on, when those repairs or upgrades would be due.
Well, I just want to remind you, when we did apply
I know, for just the shed,
for
right?
just the shed, it was high six figures.
Right.
High, almost seven.
And was that funding, do you remember, that was more than 25%?
Yeah.
Which program is that?
Did we, was it, I think it was it WQuick or was it WEA? I can't remember. I think it was WQuick.
So you're suggesting just do the brining equipment for this because it's not as time sensitive as the salt shed repairs? So if this is a long wait, then that's okay and should not tie up the salt storage shed with this application?
Well, I don't want to do the replace, I mean, me personally, I don't want to replace the salt storage shed until we get significant grant funding, because that's a big ticket item. Of course, time is not our friend with that, and, our highway super continues to point out that there's decay. We did repair the roof, so that's a good start. Some of us believe that there won't be a lot of snow in 15 or 20 years, so we can just keep this thing hanging on for a few more years.
We didn't replace the roof, we just repaired it.
Patched it?
With that.
We repaired it, yeah. We repaired it. I think it's doing okay now. I can't remember what the latest update. Do you remember, Jacob, was on the roof?
Well, and I don't know when the guest speakers were here and, their presentation covered both the brining and the salt storage, I just remember thinking that our facilities are not state of the art for storage. And that, I don't know whether they're actually a source of pollution here, but they certainly have the potential to be.
Yeah, I'm not struggling with whether to go out
Whether we
for
should
a
do it,
grant.
right.
I'm struggling to say, well, you always want to make sure if you're
Right.
going to apply, that you're committed to
Right.
moving forward. And I'm not sure without having a better sense of, let's say the whole project costs $1 million and we get 250, that's wonderful. I mean, I frankly would rather wait and maybe ask for a member item next year from one of our congressional reps and say, this is what we need. You want to help us out?
Well,
Water protection?
My recollection of the presentations were, salt doesn't go away. We're gonna need it. It's just how much will we really need is really the question.
Like the granular salt.
Yeah, the granular, you know, the salt that's applied.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the question, replacing the whole salt shed is probably like $1 million.
No.
No?
No, $1 million something, but you know, it
something.
was also the salt shed, plus I think Teresa's pointing out they could use some more, you know, equipment, storage as well, so that was maybe gonna be built in, you know, attached to one of the sides. It was perhaps gonna be reoriented now that we have the property that we acquired a few
Well,
years
Well, I was just
ago.
thinking about in
Again-
terms of the size of the shed. You know, if we go to brine, you know, obviously this is a phased project and it will take time. But, you know, still $1 million is a lot of money to replace a building that we may not need as currently envisioned.
Yeah.
Well, as to when Teresa said extra equipment, is that she addressing the fact that what we have to buy for the brining equipment, we have to have space
No, I think it was
to
even
store.
before
It was
that,
before
right,
the
Jake? It was
brining,
before that
But we're
either.
also gonna buy this
Yeah.
brining equipment, which is
Yeah.
gonna have to
Yep.
go somewhere.
Yep.
Right, well, but I think the village may be interested in sharing that with us. And we've talked about potentially, you know, they have a couple of old buildings that they, you know, that used to be their highway facilities on the other side of the firehouse there, and whether or not potentially
The storage over there.
they could be utilized. So, I
Okay,
don't
well,
think that's
again,
all
I'm
figured
not
out.
really hearing anything that's mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, if we, let's say, with the round numbers of $1 million and we were successful and we got 250,000, you know, sometimes if you go out for other grants and they are the final pieces, they're much more interested in doing that. So if we went to for a member item, for instance, and said, okay, we got 250 already, we're looking for, you know, 750 from you instead, or we'll put in 250 and can you get us 500 to make it happen? They might be more interested in that, or other funding programs might be more interested in that.
I don't think we can commit to WQIP that we can pony up the money. I think it's a little cart before the horse here.
Well, do they have a restriction on, like, do you have to say, we have the money right now? Or do they just say, this is the budget, here's your part?
You know,
And then we'll get the money from someplace else if we can.
you're testing my memory on this particular program, and I don't know off the top of my head, so I don't want to give you the wrong answer to your
Okay.
question.
But we don't have a lot of time.
We don't have a lot of time.
So is your sort of, like as you're talking through this, are you between suggesting that we go for the sort of like brining equipment, or we go for the whole thing, or that we wait until a later date to apply for something?
Well, I personally think that we really only have two choices, which is don't apply, buy the brining equipment, there's savings associated with it, or apply for the brining equipment and see how quickly they can award on this. I would not apply for the salt storage just because the percentage that we would have to come up with is just too substantial.
Yeah.
Of course, we could finance it, whatever. We're also not quite in a position, I don't think. I think Brandy's done some initial sort of sketches based upon Teresa's input, but I think we would want to have more of, we did have some work done, and I think Brandy should come back maybe and meet with you all. I think it was even before some of you joining the board. You know, the new vision for the campus now with the additional property and where to relocate things like fuel and salt.
Do you think,
Right.
I don't know, so what you're describing makes sense to me. I guess my question would be, if if there are upgrades to the salt facility that need to happen in the next year or two anyway, and we want to seek funding for that in some capacity, ideally with a funding rate higher than 25%, does the bundling of that with the brining equipment make that project more enticing? Like, do we limit the competitiveness of that project if we buy the brining equipment separately? Is the question.
And I'm curious whether the salt shed, the salt storage, whatever the grant, however it was framed before, did we say that we were sort of redoing it to include sort of like the equipment side of things too? Because I'm wondering whether like having something that's tailored, that's really looking at it. Yeah, I don't know if we had any feedback about why we were denied it, or if it was just that it wasn't selected.
I think we did get a little bit of the debrief, but not much on that.
Yeah.
I think it's a very weak application for money for salt storage sheds. They just don't seem to be putting a lot of money towards it, hence you see that they'll help out, they'll pitch in.
Yeah, but that gets to Julia's point about, does the brining equipment make it a more attractive project and sort of bundle?
I don't think so, if that's the sub-program and they're calling,
And no, I don't
they're
necessarily.
identifying the two topics.
I don't necessarily mean for this grant source. I mean, if we were to make it a member item and we were going to find some other funding source, you know, in the next 6 to 12 months, would it make sense to hold on the brining equipment to be able to tell a nice story about the rationale for, you know, sort of the environmental underlying reasons for taking on one project?
I wish we were in the minds of the decision makers, you know, that a recommendation. My guess would be probably not. My sense is that they like to spread the grant monies around, so the more that you can split it up, the better, but again.
Do they do partial funding? I mean, if you went in and said, okay, it's $120,000 for brining equipment, and we need another $25,000 for improvements to store this equipment, would they say, okay, we're not funding the storage of the equipment, but we'll buy the brining or give to the brining, or is it sort of all or nothing?
I mean, I like that idea, seeing if we can get some storage for the equipment.
Right.
That's a good idea. We can somehow glom onto that. I think that's a lot better than. I wish Brandy were here with us tonight. Maybe she could help us understand how we might go about doing that from a construction standpoint. But yeah, if we could get that as well, and also the water service line. You know, we want to include all that, come up with a budget. But I also don't want to get, you know, depart too far away from, you know, if they see that the ticket item is this much
Well, that's my
for
question.
salt
If you're coming up with
reduction,
$200,000 and they say, we really only want to give this $125,000.
will they give us
Will
just
they
a
give
portion?
partial funding?
You know, that's a good question. I think maybe. I mean, a lot of times these programs will say, look, you know, we'll fund this aspect of it, but not the other aspect. We'll get some guidance on that.
The only question I have is, you know, as long as I've been on the board, Teresa has been telling us about the state of the salt shed.
Yeah.
So it probably predates my time on the board. We just patched the roof, we spent money to patch the roof. I'm assuming we've had time bonds, structural engineers come in to make sure it's not going to collapse and fall in.
Yeah.
But I guess the question I have is, what's the current life expectancy of that structure? Because if we're talking about a reduction in salt, and if that thing doesn't have much life left in it, I would be looking to replace it entirely with something that's more up-to-date, smaller, for less salt, right? Because we want to use less salt, that would be able to accommodate maybe a brine operation. I mean, I'd be looking for sort of a one-stop shopping. I'm not sure.
Patching the.
Is the best way to go, and I'm not even sure, like, getting a grant to put up a shed to store the brining equipment, then if we're gonna be doing something that's, you know, more
Yeah, but
globally larger.
a shed or another building we could use for other things.
We could move it, that's true, you could.
And, you know, at the
Direct
pace
park.
that some of these things go, we could have brining equipment for 2 years
True.
with no storage.
That's true.
So, you know, you have to look at the whole picture. So, I mean, in the hopes of moving this along. I think the consensus is that we would apply for the brining equipment and consult Brandy, and if she thinks we can put the water line
And the
and
storage.
some storage in there, we'll put that in there too.
Okay.
And I'm just double checking, because I think I agree with you, Christine, but we recognize that the funding percentage is relatively low, and we're
Yeah.
willing to budget for the community.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
or seek other grants.
Or
for the
seek
grant.
other-
seek other grants.
Yeah.
Trying to remember,
And I
that was
would-
WIA that we did.
I would like an answer to the question of what the projected life expectancy. Because I've been hearing about this for 6 years
I
now.
know, but I mean, it's, it's
That's not
anybody's
within
guess with.
what we're discussing right now,
Right,
so let's
right.
move on to goals and
But
objectives.
I do think a
Since, you
presentation
know-
from our engineer and maybe having our highway superintendent here would be
Yeah, for
useful.
long-range planning, yep.
Yeah.
Or
I
maybe
agree.
prior to
Yeah.
the budget season this
Well,
year.
just know the equipment may modify the initial plan, but I'll ask Brandy to circulate that sketch that I think she had, I think, quite a few years ago on the campus. Okay. All right, moving right along, even if it's not fast enough for Christine, let's go to
Pools and splash pads?
Yeah, this
pools
is
and
really-
split. Is that why you were eager to get to splash pads,
Because I know
weren't
what
you?
my answer is on that. That's an easy one.
Um, Okay. What do you want to say about pools and splash pads? Splash pad is not eligible for amusements, but a pool and pool facilities such as bathrooms, changing rooms are. If you want to think about an aquatic facility or at Park West, and the bathrooms can be shared with the ball fields. The town is eligible for these funds, but they are specifically targeted to unserved communities. The town scored 25 out of 40 for the community eligibility, so that's kind of like a lot.
It's middle of the pack, it's not very high.
Well, higher than middle.
I don't really want to commit to an aquatic facility just to get some bathroom money.
No, especially not making the decision between now and the 12th.
Exactly, right.
So no, I think this is a longer conversation.
This is a longer conversation, but I just want to say for the record that, looking at the governor's initiative to ensure that all communities, especially those that are disadvantaged, have public facilities for swimming, because the governor and frankly anybody who knows anything about health knows that swimming is one of the best things that our children and frankly our adults should be engaged in, and certainly our seniors, right? We spoke about our seniors. And I don't understand why this community, a first-class town, in quotes, doesn't have a public facility for people to swim. And I think about this week as a good example, and last week, where it is so hot that it really just underscores that
So you should be out in the 100-degree weather, swimming in under the hot sun?
swimming cools you
But
off.
it will have a bathroom.
Swimming cools you off. I'm not saying we're at Park West. I'm saying I really think it's time that, over the years we've discussed when Kevin Storrs was alive about trying to expand the town, working with the Red Hook Pool, trying to create a facility that would really work for not only folks who can afford to buy seasonal passes, but for the rest of the community, including those folks who need it during 12 months a year of therapy pool expanding. I think it's time for us to really give that some thought, because we're not a community of haves and have not, or at least that's not our objective.
Well, so that's a good item for the comprehensive plan to
Right.
address.
Right.
Does the county, I lived in Montgomery County in Maryland, the county took it upon itself to build several very large aquatic centers. You still have to pay some nominal fee, either sign up for a yearly or whatever, but those were year-round, they're very large. And they were strategically located, it's a big county, so that
they were pretty much accessible to most people. They made sure they had a bus, a public bus that went there. And I'm wondering whether or not that's a conversation to have with the county about whether they have one or whether it's something they would consider, making one, because we're not
Making
a
a
big...
bus or transportation available? Is that what you're saying?
No, them having an actual aquatic center.
Oh, the county?
Yeah, we're not that big a county. I mean,
Isn't there a pool or boating park?
where?
Is there a pool or boating park?
At Bowden. That's quite a hike. Anyway. Okay. No splash pad. No new pool facility at Rec Park West. Going once, going twice, but let's
That was a
explore.
decision needed by July 12th.
Yeah, going once, going twice. Okay, so we have that. We covered that. There were what, a lot more. Okay, Green Resiliency Grant. Let's get to that. In particular, I think we discussed the possibility of retrofitting, right? Forest Park.
I was gonna say, would this apply to Forest Park?
It could be a pilot project for residential suburban development from 50s years ago.
I don't recommend permeable pavements.
You
And
don't
Christine,
recommend
no,
permeable?
and Christine knows exactly what I mean. They sound great, but if you listen to anybody who actually has to maintain them,
Well, they have come a long way.
they have, but even Bard College, which was a real leader in doing that, has quickly learned in an area that gets plowed a lot, at least for now,
Well, that.
the life expectancy of a permeable pavement is very short, and it's very expensive. And also the people who make it, I mean, for us, it wouldn't be a problem, but for example, the issue down at Traditions, we had originally on the planning board required that. The companies that produce it, they make asphalt, but they have to basically stop making asphalt and make this permeable, so they have to make massive amounts, which is one of the reasons that the applicants at Traditions came in and asked for a dispensation, if you will.
Right, but
Um,
as the product has gotten better, production has also changed, so there's more places that do that.
There is, but I would just say that, doing a whole community, I would probably want to see the
Well,
updated
it depends on what
information.
I mean, it's not meant for road surfaces yet.
But I could see someone saying a community like Forest Park, like a place that's more enclosed, to try to do it. I
Oh,
think,
yeah, no,
no.
you can't do, you
Yeah, I don't
can't do
think-
roads with forest pavement.
Yeah, no, I think we're just talking about
Sidewalks.
bioswales.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my main
Sidewalks,
question about this, is can
overflow
it,
parking.
like, could we sort of take the work that's already been done and just turn that in and say we'd like to fund this, or does the project need to be reconceived and broadened? I guess I don't,
Oh, well, don't forget, the only thing we approved moving forward was the work on Shady Lane.
No, I-
There are other parts of,
we've
Yeah, but
we've
the-
done kind of preliminary
But the plan
design on
that-
some other.
Ty and Bond put together did have bioswales in it
Yeah.
and some
Right.
parts, so we could take that plan and use it as the basis to apply for this.
But I don't know.
This
if
is
it's-
90% reimbursement, so it's much better.
But didn't we get
Ratio.
rejected?
no, that was a different
A
grant.
different grant?
No, the work in Forest Park will be done way before
Okay.
any decision making on
On
this.
this.
So then that's just that tiny little road. The rest of the neighborhood where there
I
were,
mean, the Shady Lane part will be done.
Yeah.
I thought they were in
I mean,
Shady
the
Lane.
rest of,
Yeah, I mean, the rest
the
of
rest
it.
of the project.
the rest of the project we would
Yes.
apply for
Right.
the rest of the neighborhood.
Right.
We could use it as a
Right.
pilot.
Right, and so then my question is that project in its broader conception like, does that fit well with this as it stands? Or do they want to see something more kind of integrated and comprehensive with street trees and downspout? Can we just kind of submit what we have, or would we need to reconceive the whole thing?
I think we would want to take a look at, well, it was a study, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say that the construction project was, you know,
Right.
designed. I think we'd want to take a look at it and see what characteristics we want to consider as part of the project that is consistent with this grant opportunity. Street trees, for example. Retention, I'm not sure how much retention, you know, there's room for retention there.
Well, again,
But retrofits for sure, and slow
Right.
release design.
we'd have to just, yeah, there's no deadline on this one.
It's August 16th.
August 16th.
Yeah, this
So we
one's
have a little more
A
time.
little more time on this one.
But yeah, but I think we should definitely look at the Forest Park project and see what would qualify.
Okay.
Wouldn't be hard to spend $1 million.
Okay. Can we talk parks for a second? So,
Before we leave this one, I just want to say that I mean, we have a number of neighborhoods that I'm sure could benefit from this.
Yes.
And so just, I think, keeping in mind that we don't set standards we won't be able to uphold for the rest of the town.
yeah. Parks. So I don't know that we have it in our packet. But as you know, we applied previously for funding from State Parks and Rec, OPHRP. Did I say that correctly? The acronym, Christine? Something like that. Okay.
PRHP.
For Rec Park West, the infrastructure. Remember pavilion, water, bathrooms. Were you on the board at the time when we did
Julie
this?
was
No?
not here.
Julie was not here, so you
No,
were
we
here.
didn't get it,
We didn't get it.
so that's why you don't know about it.
Yeah. We didn't get it. We could resubmit for that, for the infrastructure, the water, the electric, the pavilion, and
Wi-Fi.
pavilion with restrooms.
For which project? I mean, which
Or
one?
Park West,
For which fund of money?
parks,
Yeah, okay,
okay, parks.
yeah.
Or, since there seems to be an emphasis, connection about trails and trails that maybe connect to Empire State Trail, or improvements for the Empire State Trail. And as you know, connecting Abrams to Town Rec, so I'm at the bridge now, funding for the bridge. Which design, bridge, $1 million a month, could be, high six figures.
Design and build,
Who
or just
knows?
design?
No, design
Design and
and
build.
build.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know how much building it will be as opposed to a prefab,
Well,
precast,
creating.
straight metal.
But it has to go,
Grade.
but it has to go over a wetland.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it would have to
Right.
span, and we would, you know, obviously. But it's, I think it's,
I would really love to get that connectivity. I think that's a
Yeah.
priority.
yeah.
But it might be more than you expect.
Sure, yeah, that's the grant.
And also,
That's
if there's a
what I-
federal wetland there.
Well, and again, you know,
they're.
there, I think that the
Yeah, as they should. but that's what it
intermunicipal part of
costs.
it, you know, tends to push our applications up. So that,
Connecting two
that
parks.
project would
Yeah.
probably rate higher than the other
Yeah.
one.
With an emphasis on the fact that this trail is going to connect all the way from the village of Red Hook to the Empire State Trail, and then continue up through the other village with the
And
Empire
provide,
State
and therefore
Trail.
provide access to bathrooms and stuff for people who are on the trail.
Right.
And do we think, so we think there's a funding source that matches that project in the CFA? Parks.
Parks. Because if it's, again, this would be connection to parks, which also has trails. I think the whole Cookingham West story, I think, would be a good narrative for the trying to remember the match on parks, but it's pretty high.
I think it varies based on your community characteristics, but I don't know where we are here. It's like 50 to 75.
Does that have a rolling deadline, or is that the?
No, that's CFA. That's CFA, which is July 31st.
Yeah, they do a month.
So remind me to do calendar
What's the
after we
calendar?
decide we're going to prepare an application. So we thinking we want to prepare an application for parks, we'll get more
Yeah.
details on it and see if Brenny can do that on the connecting the two parks with the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll put that together, estimates for consideration at our second meeting, which we'd like to entertain rescheduling because of conflict. We're now looking at July 30th. Did you all have a chance to check your calendars?
I think we
Sounds like you got quorum, but maybe only just barely.
Oh, July 30th doesn't work. for you?
Well, I said I'm going to be traveling, but I'm just not fully confirmed yet.
Okay. And you?
I will be out. I'll be in Pennsylvania.
You'll be
Yeah.
out July 30th.
I mean, I'm coming back, but I'll probably come back while you're in executive session, so.
And then,
I'll be here.
Yeah, I'm sure.
so if you're going to be here, you'll have 3.
Does the 29th as improved?
There's a housing committee meeting that night, but we could do it after that.
Oh, there was a housing.
Yeah, schedule past the 8th.
Deanna, I know the planning board was looking at alternative dates for a meeting. Do you know, did they settle on one? Do you have one up?
Not that I know of, but
It's not.
they were looking at the 20, I gave them, I suggested the 29th, since you
Yeah.
guys meet, and you can meet in here in the conference room, they can meet in here, but, no. Yeah. At least,
They
Kathy
had
never
not.
came back to me,
To let you know.
but there's a bunch of, everybody's all over the place, she doesn't really have one date that everybody,
Mine, yeah.
even
Okay.
close can do, so.
Okay. Does 29 change for you or no?
Same.
Same, you out.
I will be available.
You.
29th is fine for me, I'm going to be here for housing as well.
Housing goes from 1 to
6 to 7:30.
Yeah. We could wrap it up before 7:30.
I imagine it'll be a pretty brief meeting. Because I don't know exactly.
your housing.
Well, the housing may be brief depending on who can come, but no, I don't know what we have on the agenda.
Well, seeing as they haven't reserved it, we could try to figure out a way to divide the spaces, depending upon what's on the agenda.
For planning board, they have a bunch of public hearings.
Yeah, so I think we'd give them the big space and just direct people to the conference room.
Well, I don't think you're not gaining anybody by having it on the 29th.
You gaining me?
I'm getting.
Oh, you're going to be back. Oh,
No, I'm here on the 29th, I'm not
And then
here.
you're leaving. Oh,
I think the 29th would be better, because we're also going to need Martel. Oh, no.
I'm not available, Alex is off. So, on Monday,
So you're going to the
29th.
30th.
Oh, so
Alex is off, I wouldn't be available the 29th.
the 29th.
Monday.
Oh, okay. So then, but Tuesday's okay, Deanna?
Yeah, yeah, for
Okay.
Alex or myself, one or the
Okay.
other.
I think that the
That was
most
better
important
than
thing is
Monday.
we'll need the following morning, we'll need the certified resolutions, because all the state grants go in that day. So that would be the only thing. Are you both in that following day?
I mean, as far as I know.
Yeah. We'll have them, Cassie will have everything
Yeah, and I'm available either day.
pre-prepared,
Yeah.
so that, okay. Okay, so, looks like we're doing January 30th.
No, July 3rd.
Well, I know the meeting is in 6 more months.
January 30th. I just want to say I have not had a cognitive test. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we reschedule the original date, July 24th, I think it was,
Yes.
7:30 to July 30th
At 7:30.
at 7:30 for the town board meeting. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, all in favor, Jacob?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Bill? If your plans change, let us know, either one of you, please. Okay. That concludes the items on our agenda for tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us at home. At this time, I would entertain a motion to go into attorney-client session. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, William. All in favor, Julia?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Jacob?
Aye.
Good night, all. Enjoy your summer. Stay healthy.